Okay, so we are getting pretty close here to having these taxiways finished here. I applied the rest of the textures and mapped them accordingly. One thing I'm doing here real quick, I selected these lofts on just this model here and raised them slightly above everything else. It's hard to explain exactly why I'm doing that right now, but it'll hopefully become more clear once we actually get to exporting everything. So that's basically what we're ready to do. Let's see, let's go to smooth and highlights just so we can take a look at things. So yeah, so you can see how the textures are kind of you can kind of see it over everything else now. Just that's basically what you want, I guess. I'm not exactly sure if this is going to do what I think it's going to do, but I just did it anyways. However, I think these need to be mapped yet a little bit because they're not. Yeah, they do. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Let's see here. I believe we can just repeat 0.4. We'll just manually kind of up the length here. It's looking pretty good. Now, this method of creating taxiways for this model here, it's sort of a test in some ways because I'm not exactly sure how all these things will blend. In fact, what I think I might do, you see there's some kind of dirt. I may go ahead and just remove that dirt because it may not match up very well with these edges here. So we will do that real quick too. Working on a new concrete texture here if you want to take a quick look at that. In fact, I'm actually using this texture on my concrete taxiway in GMax here now, so in fact I'll probably end up uploading all these textures with just the XCF files for GIMP and as well as the PNG. And I'll also be uploading the files, GMax files for this, and probably the MDL as well. Okay, so let's just get that texture opened here. I'm masking quite a few here, so it's hard to keep track of all of them. I think it is. I want to say it's that one. Let's just see. All right, so I just want to remove this dirt on the edges here. Once I figure out which one that is. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna save and export to. All right. We can even go ahead now. Here's something I don't know if I've showed this before yet, but now if you want to reload the texture, now that you modified it, you just go into your material navigator here, find the texture, and again you'd probably at least have these all named, unlike me. I think it's this one. I'm gonna select the diffuse color here, and I'm gonna say reload. Alright, and so now I can see it's refreshed. Let's see, that's looking pretty good, I think. So we'll just go with that and just see what happens. Alright, so first thing, we just need to select everything that we want to export. So let's see. Or we could do that first. It doesn't really matter, but we'll do it first here. So I don't think we need to select any of the lines. Again, this is why you name everything. Actually, we don't want the templates. We just want the lofts. But yeah, ideally you would have all these named, and so it would be easy to select. I think we can grab all the rectangles. We don't need template 1. And I find it's best just to go to wireframe. I think we have all that we want selected and all that we don't want selected, unselected, except for this box here. So I'm just going to take the mouse here and deselect it, holding down Control. I'm just going to click on it if it'll let me. Sometimes I have to kind of mess with the views and stuff to get it let you. Alright, there we go. Get that selected, or unselected. Alright, so I think that's everything. You can see all the lofts here selected. Alright, so next we're going to go to FS Tools, and again you should have the FSX GMax installed by now, as per the introductory video to these series. Let's go to Level Detail Name Tool. I guess that's what it stands for, but LOD, anyhow. LOD, we're going to say Create New Guide right here. And we'll just call it Tutorial 2. You know, just type a name in there. I find it doesn't really, it doesn't really matter what you type in there, but maybe something, something that you're going to use, and, good name. I wouldn't just type 1. Alright, so now we're going to say Export Selected. Not export, just say export selected, so we're only exporting the desired geometry. Alright, so I'm going to navigate to my folder. I have several convert folders here. I usually just name a folder like that and then have several files in there. I'm going to replace one of these other files because I don't need them. I'm going to say, just name it as 5. Why not? We're going to say save, or replace, yes. By default, everything be set in here. You can take a quick look at this though, just in case there's something that's not. You want to use DDS files, process the textures, export FS10 materials, all that stuff. Good to go. I'm going to say OK. It exported, and fortunately there's no errors or anything, so that's good. And that's pretty much all we have to do in GMax. So let's get to our converter here. So here's Model Converter X. You've definitely seen this before if you've seen the Hanger series of tutorials. Make sure when you're starting this program that you run it as administrator. Definitely will prevent some errors or anything like that from occurring. So now we'll just go to wizards and say ground polygon wizard. I already have the wizard up here, and you'll just say select the file to convert, and so you're going to navigate to your folder, and we'll load our MDL file. So just double click on it. Here's another that was another taxiway thing I was working on for Spokane. Alright, so here we are. That looks good. Now the one thing we need to do, and I forgot to do this, but at least you got that figured out now, but we need to convert the textures. So we need to convert them from the PNG file format that we have to DDS. So right here, there's this program called DXT-BMP. We're going to open that, and we're going to open all our textures here one at a time. So let's see. I think most of these textures are good to go. I already converted them, but let's just pick one here because I know we need to redo it. Let's see here if I can find it. I think that's it. We're gonna load this texture up. So you load it. Just here's a kind of a quick preview of it. Now you don't necessarily have to do it for these textures, but because FSX reads your textures as flipped when you when they're in a DDS file format, you're going to want to flip the image so that it's read right side up. And so, but of course the way it repeats doesn't matter too much, but in this case I just flipped it anyways. We're going to save this as a DXT3 texture. I'm going to say save. I'm going to, of course, replace the last one. Take a second or two to save. Now, if you are trying this out, let's see here, I'm going to just open the texture here. Let's see, A markings. If you're trying this kind of wear with the taxi line thing here, this is of course just kind of an experiment. I'm not exactly sure how it'll turn out in Flight Sim. You'll want to save this texture in DXT-BMP here. You'll want to save it as a DXT5 DDS. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this image. So say image, flip image. I'm going to say file, save as DDS texture, and this time we're going to save it as a DXT5. Make sure you do that, and that's only if you're using this where thing. That way it kind of it fixes. I wish I had a picture to show you, because there'll be banding in the blending of the where here. If you do not save it as a DXT5. DXT5 will make all the alpha channels and everything smooth and everything. Sorry, that's about the best I could explain it here without actually having something visual to show you. But anyhow, just take my word for it. Save it as a DXT5. Alright, and then that's the other thing you have to make sure you do. Go in here, and we need to make sure we have all our textures in the convert folder where the MDL is. So let's see here. I had all the other textures already in there, but I'm just going to grab the ones that we just did. Let's see, A seamless 2 and A markings. I'm going to copy those. We'll go back to, just go to desktop, find our folder here. There we go. Let's replace those. And we'll reload it here in reload our model in MCX here. Let's see if that covers everything. Alright. So it looks like everything is appearing more or less like we would expect it. These textures seem to have a little bit, the edge and main texture seem to have a little different values. I think it might be because I didn't convert the latest ones, so I might go ahead and do that right now. So A seamless 1 and what was the other one? A edge 1. Alright, so we need to convert both of those real quick. Obviously I've been tweaking these textures off and on, so they always change, and you have to make sure you reconvert them so you're using the right texture. Alright, so we're just going to flip this image, file, save as, and again you just have to save this one as a DXT3. Take a second or two to save these. Alright, and we need to get the what is it, A edge, is that it? There it is. I'm gonna just flip this image. Again, not totally necessary to flip it, but go ahead and make a habit of it anyways. Alright, so let's go back to our Taxiway texture folder. A seamless 1 and A edge 1. We'll put those back into our convert folder here. Okay, so let's go back and reload our model once again. See if that fix this. was it? Number 5, that's right. And I think it did. Let's see. Alright, that's better. Now you can see they match. Alright, so it's all pretty simple now. What we're going to do, we're just going to go to Grand Polygon Wizard. We see all our materials here. And we see there's a layer entry here, visibility. This determines from how far of a distance you can see it in Flight Simulator. LM is if it's a night texture. And you can check this if you want to set seasons, so you can go and say define seasons, winter, such and such to from one day to the next day. This case, we're using this for all seasons. I haven't done too much experimenting with making the winter texture, but besides winter, I don't think you really need a different seasonal texture for this. But, just experiment if you want to do things. Just point that all out there. So, what we need to do, we need to find our base texture. So we'll start out with this one here. This is our A-edge, or A-seamless to default is 8. I'm just going to have them all at least raised up to 12 on the layers here. And again, they go up by 4. Alright. And let's see. And then A markings. This is going to be above everything. So let's just put that on a high layer just for now. We'll lower it back down so it's all nicely organized later here, but just get it up above everything else. And I think that's it for this model. Alright. Let's go over to this one. We have an edge texture. And let's see. And we have, let me set this to 16 and the A-edge 1 to 12. Alright. That all looks like it's going good. Now we have our concrete texture here. And this kind of worn thing will appear black until you get into Flight Simulator. Alright. So concrete, we're going to put it to, we'll put 16. Let's see here. Edge, you want that underneath the concrete, so it is. So that's layer 16. The edge of the asphalt here is layer 12. Markings are good. Let's see. I think it's all good to go. Alright, just want to make sure that I got it all here. Alright. I think it's all good to go, but anyhow, that's about all there really is to getting these ready to export. Let's go ahead and convert it. And I'll show you how to put it into your scenery directory here. Right, let's say convert. Just as simple as that. Doesn't take long at all, especially since it doesn't have to convert the textures. Alright. Oh, I'm sorry. One thing I need to mention here. So I think in our first video I kind of showed you how I showed you how to align a background image with a project if you're going to start a new airport project or something. That way, when you export your model, your runway should be, the main runway that you're using the coordinates of should be in the center of your model. I mean the exact origin of your model. And then you can just use these latitude and longitude coordinates here, and the heading. Don't need to use the altitude, just set that to 0 in MCX here. Keep that 0, use these coordinates, and again this is Airport Design Editor, so I just loaded Airport BGL into here and just found the coordinates. So just right click or select the runway right click and say edit object, and then you can set by drag to be able to copy these. Just copy those coordinates into your ground polygon wizard here, and that's all you need to do there if you want to get an accurate placement. In this case, I just went ahead and just quickly converted it, since these are just generic models and we don't have an exact placement for them. So we'll see where they end up in the in-flight simulator here. I know they'll be around Spokane somewhere. Alright, so let's go to our convert folder here. Should have a BGL, which we do. It's called 5. Let's go to our add-on scenery folder here, and let's see. I'm going to make a new folder. I'm going to call it tutorial. In fact, I'll just name it that. And we'll go into here, make another folder, call it scenery, and we'll make another one and call it texture. Alright, so we're going to grab all our textures and put it into the texture folder here. And let's see here, we only need concrete 1. I think there's the 5 textures here. There we go, we'll get them selected here one way or another. Alright, got them. We'll just copy them because we don't want to move them from our convert folder. We just want to copy them. Paste them into our texture folder here. And I'm going to also copy the BGL and put it in, or in this case, I guess you could just move the BGL, but anyhow. Oh well, I'll just move it. Let's make sure it got in there. Alright, good. And so we have our scenery directory now. We just need to add it in FSX, which I assume you know how to do that. But anyhow, I'll get FSX up and running, add the scenery area, and I'll be back in a second. We'll take a quick look at it, and I think I'll make kind of a finishing video here. In fact, we'll just leave this video at right here, and we'll make another video to just kind of wrap up things, and yeah, so we're pretty much good to go, and finally finally done. So alright, or finally nearly done. I still have another video to make. Alright, catch you later.